There is a moment, right before someone becomes wealthy, where their brain tells them to quit. Not when things are going badly. Not when they've lost money. But when everything looks fine, boring, and completely unrewarding. That exact moment is where most people give up, and it's usually only months, sometimes just weeks, before their money was about to explode into growth they'd never have believed possible. Here's a real pattern that shows up again and again. Two people invest the exact same amount of money, starting on the exact same day. One of them quits after 2 years because nothing is happening. The other one keeps going for 18 years. 18 years later, the person who quit early, and never added another dollar, ends up richer than the person who kept investing that whole time. That shouldn't be possible, but it happens more often than you'd think. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and more importantly, you'll know if you're standing in that exact danger zone right now, without even realizing it. Because there's a specific, predictable point where almost everyone feels like quitting. And the only difference between people who stay poor and people who build real wealth is what they do in that exact moment. Let's break down why it happens, and how to make sure it never happens to you. Imagine two friends, same age, same salary, same job, both decide, on the same day, to start investing. One of them sticks with it for 18 years straight. The other one invests for exactly 2 years, gets bored, sees barely any movement in the numbers, and quits. Puts the money in a regular savings account instead and moves on with life. Now here's the twist. 18 years later, the person who only invested for 2 years, and then stopped adding anything, ends up with more money than the person who invested every single year after that. Wait, what? That sounds impossible. But it's actually one of the strangest, most well-documented truths about money. And once you understand why it happens, you'll understand why almost everyone who tries to build wealth quits at exactly the wrong moment, usually without even realizing it. Let's talk about why most people give up right before their money was about to start working harder than they do. Here's the common belief most people carry around. Most people think growing money works like this. You put in effort, you get a result, in a fairly straight line. Work more, save more, invest more, get proportionally more back. Like a job, like exercise, like anything else in life where effort and results move together in a predictable way. So when someone starts investing, here's what usually happens in their head. Month 1, they check the account. Barely any change. Month 6, still nothing exciting. Year 1, the numbers look almost identical to what they put in. And somewhere in their mind, I could be doing something better with this money. Maybe investing is for people who already have a lot to invest. And so, right around year 2 or 3, when the growth still looks slow and unimpressive, a huge number of people quietly stop. They don't announce it. They don't make a dramatic decision. They just stop contributing. Or they pull the money out for something that feels more useful right now. A new phone, a wedding, a vacation, paying off something else. Nothing wrong with any of that on its own. But the timing is the tragedy. Because what they don't realize is this. The slow, boring, unimpressive years at the beginning aren't a sign that investing doesn't work. They're the price of admission for the part that actually matters. So let's break down what's really happening with your money, step by step. Picture a snowball at the top of a hill. When you first push it, it's small, light, and barely picks up any extra snow as it rolls. The first few seconds look almost pointless. You could roll that tiny snowball by hand faster than it grows on its own. But keep watching. As it rolls further down the hill, it's not just picking up snow anymore, it's picking up snow on a bigger surface. And that bigger surface picks up even more snow. And that even bigger snowball now has an even bigger surface. The growth isn't adding up anymore. It's multiplying on itself. That's compounding. Your money doesn't just grow, the growth itself starts growing. Here's the simple math version, no jargon, just numbers you can picture. Say you invest money and it grows by about 10% a year, which is a fairly normal long-term average for the stock market. If you invest $100, after 1 year you have about $110. Not exciting. After 2 years, you have around $121. Still not exciting. It feels like watching grass grow. But here's the part almost nobody sticks around long enough to see. That same $100, left alone for 30 years at that same 10%, doesn't turn into a few $100s. It turns into over $1,700. From $100. Untouched. No extra contributions. Just time. The first few years barely move the needle because the snowball is still small. The real magic doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens at the end. And that's exactly the part most people never reach, because they quit during the boring middle. Now here's the psychological trap hiding inside all of this. Our brains did not evolve for compounding. They evolved for immediate feedback. If you plant a seed, you don't expect to see fruit tomorrow, and somehow we accept that. But with money, we expect a different rule. We expect the account balance to reward us quickly for the effort we're putting in, because that's how almost everything else in modern life works. Send a message, get a reply in seconds. Post something, get likes in minutes. Order food, get it in 20 minutes. Money doesn't play by that rule. And when something doesn't give us fast feedback, our brain quietly starts labeling it as not working, even when it's working exactly as it should. There's a name psychologists use for this kind of thinking. It's related to something called hyperbolic discounting. In plain language, it just means our brains value a smaller reward right now far more than a bigger reward later, even when the later reward is objectively much, much bigger. It's the same reason people would rather have $20 today than $50 in 6 months, even though waiting is clearly the smarter choice. So when your investments are quietly growing in the background, not doing anything dramatic, your brain isn't built to appreciate that. It's built to get bored and look for something that feels more rewarding right now. And, right now, usually wins, because slow and steady doesn't trigger the same feeling of progress that spending does. This is also why so many people can stick to a workout plan for 2 weeks and quit, or start a new skill and abandon it right before they'd have gotten good at it. It's the same psychological pattern showing up in a different area of life. The middle always feels the most pointless, right before it becomes the most powerful. Here's the deeper insight most people never get told. Compounding isn't linear. It's not a straight line where year 10 looks twice as impressive as year 5. It's a curve that stays almost flat for a long time, and then suddenly bends upward in a way that looks dramatic. Think about it like boiling a pot of water. Second, understand that consistency matters more than timing perfection. You don't need to invest a huge amount, and you don't need to find the perfect moment to start. What actually separates people who build wealth from people who don't usually isn't intelligence or income or luck. It's simply whether they stayed invested long enough for the curve to bend. Time in the process beats trying to perfectly time the process. Third, remove the temptation to check your progress constantly. Watching the numbers daily or weekly makes the slow growth feel even slower, because you're staring directly at the flattest part of the curve. Checking in every few months, or even once or twice a year, gives compounding the space it actually needs to do its quiet work without your brain talking you out of it. And finally, reframe what those early boring years actually mean. They're not wasted time. They're not proof that this isn't working. They are the entrance fee. Every person who has ever experienced the dramatic upward bend of compounding had to first sit through years where nothing seemed to be happening. The boredom isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign you're doing it exactly right.